Welcome back. Joining me for a closer look at what's played out on the market scene today is Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments. Shaun, thanks so much for your time this evening. Let's start off with market sentiment, right? So markets really choppy. We see some taking a breather. We see some in the green, but only just. It seems like, investors are, taking a wait and see approach. What have you made of markets action? It's really been a busy week thinking of, the trade truce that was struck by US and China at the top of the week. We've also seen some investment deals coming through with Trump in the Middle East. Just your general sentiment of, markets action.
All right. Firstly, thank you for having me. Yes, definitely has been quite an interesting week. As much as today has been choppy and a bit quiet, I think post the negotiation between China and the US this past weekend, there was a bit of a rally, and I believe that the rally is starting to slow down, and because of all the commentary that's still coming out in the US, I know Jerome Powell, the Fed chair there, is still speaking about how we might be seeing the interest rates where they are for a longer period of time. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and it's also important to note that when the Federal Reserve chairman speaks, we take every single word and analyze it, and then as investors and traders and general markets tend to react with every sentence that he says. So that's where I think has caused a bit of that choppiness, because we don't know what direction we're going on going forward there.
So caution remains the name of the game. As we know, we just await Fed Chair Powell's comments, or rather wait for him to just wrap up that speech. Bringing it back home, looking at the Rand, Shaun, while we've seen that rally in equities pause, the Rand is really powering through today. It hit a 2-month high. Is this just on the back of dollar weakness or some local news? Before I came into studio, I read a Bloomberg report that revealed Deputy Finman David Masondo saying that Treasury and the SARB will be making an announcement on the inflation framework soon, and hinting at a change in the target. Could that also just be in play?
Yes, I think there's several factors that are going well for the Rand. I think that if we look at the uncertainty that we've been speaking about, I think the JSE and the South African economy has been holding its own for the most part, and with South Africa being a big commodity exporter, our PGM stocks have been really doing quite well as safe haven assets. So there is a bit of demand for the Rand, which is helping that strength there. And as you mentioned earlier, there is a lot of dollar weakness as well. I do believe, in my opinion, that the Trump administration will prefer a weaker dollar, which does well for us, for the Rand and other actual currencies in general.
We also have those risk events coming through next week. There's the budget coming through. We also have talks with the US, with President Ramaphosa traveling to Washington. So we'll be watching the Rand quite closely. Moving over to the local company news, and starting off with Afimex, who has really been taking a knock on the back of iron ore prices and a stronger Rand. Revenue coming in 36% higher, but that not filtering through to earnings, with earnings plunging 88% or close to 88%. This, of course, as I mentioned, on the back of those factors, including challenges in the iron ore market. What's your analysis on how that company has performed? I mean, they are quite optimistic, saying they've left the worst behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to really mince my words here. I think the results were quite poor, but it's also, the environment that they've been operating in. And if we look at a lot of the iron ore miners in South Africa, they have suffered a lot of logistical issues, so they haven't been able to actually export as much as they are producing. So that leads to I don't want to call it wastage, but a lot of stock that's still staying here. And then, as you mentioned, the Rand is not doing them in their favor, because commodities obviously trade in dollar, so that is also affecting their bottom line. But the key point here when it comes to Afimex, in my opinion, is that iron ore prices have been under pressure for a significantly long time now, which is obviously, filtering into their earnings and their results. And if we recall, Afimex also had an acquisition of Lafarge. I think that was
Yeah.
last year sometime, if I'm not mistaken. I also think that did obviously affect their balance sheet, and there are dynamics at play between that acquisition and Afimex. So once, as I said, once 2025 has gone past, hopefully they can maneuver out of this treacherous time that they're going through, and the acquisition, hopefully it also turns out to be a positive element on their balance sheet.
All right. So from one company that's posted downbeat earnings to one that has posted upbeat numbers, Karu, they're really being boosted, by subscriber growth in Cartrack, and this happening year in, year out. I guess not a surprise, these numbers, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think Cartrack has been doing quite well. And, they have diversified. We shouldn't forget that they do operate in South Africa, they operate in Asia, they also operate in Europe. And from a South African perspective, what is really doing well for them is that people are no longer, they're technically not buying new cars, so they're holding on their cars for longer. And I know that the CEO of Karu did mention something along the lines that their commercial business is actually doing really, really well here in South Africa off the back of, well, people are not buying new cars, and we know that, the economy we're living in is quite expensive to get brand new cars now. And your commercial fleet, they're expanding, but also holding onto those cars for longer. And then if you take it to Asia, which is a big market, for them, they've actually now done an interesting play there, is that they're offering technology which is not here in South Africa, new technology in Asia, which is above what, Asian companies are providing as it is. So that is really, driving a lot of growth in that region. And as we can see, it's definitely filtering down to their numbers.
And before I let you go, just quickly, we have about 30 seconds, your stock pick today.
My stock pick will be Blue Label Telecoms. I think it's a stock that people are not really watching, but they took a bet on Capitec Connect, which is a prepaid telephone provider through Cell's network. And as we know, Capitec as a business, within the lower LSM, they got a lot of clients, massive number of clients. And as an additional product for their clients, we see that there is a surge in uptake of the Capitec Connect offering that Blue Label Telecoms is bringing on. And I think year to date, they're probably above 15% in return. So I think that would be my stock. Bit of a risky one, but
Yeah, very
I
risky.
do, yeah, very risk, but I do foresee growth there. And sometimes it's always important to take a bit of a gamble, for the lack of a better term.
All right, then, Shaun, thanks so much for your time and taking us through the trading day that was. That was Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments.